I think, as it was introduced earlier this morning, I got to hold on to that. Okay. The advanced portion of this course, has taken a number of guidance documents that we're preparing as part of the safety grant program, and are incorporating them into two modules in this course. One of the ones that are hot off the press is some guidance on making sure that the work zones are safe for motorcycle and bicycle travel. Bicyclists are a priority area for federal highways, and in fact, they're the ones that suggested that we put some information together on ways that contractors and workers can improve or make sure that their work zones are safe. Why? You see some information here. The increase in motorcycle usage is gone up significantly as a result in the last several years. Number of reasons for that. Some crash data, as you see here. Motorcycles represent 10% of the fatal work zone crashes right now in the country. We don't have as many bicyclist crashes, but we also know that bicyclists crashes tend to go, unreported. So we don't even have a good number on that. The idea of the module then is to introduce, contractors, supervisors, inspectors, make everybody more aware about the kinds of things that can go on in a work zone that are particularly hazardous to the motorcycle bicyclist cycling community, and find or identify ways of reducing those risks. So just down. Hierarchy down. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. That's right. There we go. Oh, that'd be perfect. All right. We have here, we had the pretest. We identified a number of the kinds of most common hazards and how those hazards, can increase the risk to both motorcyclists and bicyclists. Most of them are pretty straightforward. Pavement discontinuities, degradations of pavement friction. That's the gravel, the sand, mud, any of those kinds of things on pavement surfaces. Pavement surface quality, milling is really common. I'm sure most of you heard it. Very bad, tough for motorcyclists to accommodate if they're trying to travel on milled pavement. A lot of these things you certainly can't avoid those, but you do have to be aware that those are things that make it more tough for a motorcycle to travel on. And then a lot of times we do things we have to fit in the work zone into existing geometric constraints, and we have to tighten things down a little bit, and a lot of those kind of things can also have especially hazardous to motorcycles and bicyclists. So go on. That's okay. Yeah. Perfect. And again, we bring up a little more information about why each of these are an issue. Why is surface quality an issue? Obviously, with two wheels, lighter situation. And as I said here, a lot of these situation or hazards are identified here. The grooving, the paved gravel sections that maybe just you covered a trenching with some gravel temporarily represents a unique or more difficult situation for a motorcycle bicyclist to handle. Rumble strips, a lot of times that the shift in travel lanes. If you're not paying attention, if you might be crossing a rumble strip situation to put people on the shoulders, for example. Type of thing that we want to raise awareness of and make that's a hazard. Go on to the next one here. Again, private friction, what are the common kinds of hazards there? Most of these are straightforward. Any type of liquid moisture on the road. Again, we don't control those. Although if we're doing things like dumping trucks out and water's running across the work area in the travel lanes, cognizant of that, that's an additional risk to the motorists or to the cyclists and bicyclists. Blackout tape. A lot of states, recognize certain types of blackout tape on pavement markings can become very slick very quickly, and can be quite hazardous. Large pavement markings, the horizontal markings that you're seeing more and more, particularly on the interstate facilities, and I know of some, or I've heard anecdotally, a lot of states like them for temporary applications as well. When you're doing lane shifts, multiple across, in a major reconstruction job, having those down help motorists, all types of motorists, including the cyclists, or motorcyclists. But it is a something that is challenging for them to negotiate. And steel plates that I know a lot of agencies use can be hazardous. Related a little bit, there's very a lot of cross pollination in terms of hazards here, but discontinuity, anything that has an elevation change, obviously can be at a risk to motorcyclists and bicyclists. Uneven lanes, bridge joints, the steel plates themselves, in addition to having some friction issues, their elevation changes, and can cause significant hazards to motorcyclists. Drainage appurtenances. You're doing a milling job, you go around the manhole cover. The fact that that's now all of a sudden much higher than it was before, it represents an additional hazard. So. And the geometrics, the thing I talked about, lane shifts. One of the things that it's important to bring up, particularly in urban areas, that when we have to, put up a work zone on an urban street, a lot of times we have to take up as much space as possible for the job, and we may eliminate a bike lane or a bike path that was being used, and obviously. Or cyclists that were used to that path, used to having their own space, being forced to share the road, represents a risk both to them and the motoring public as well. They're not used to sharing the road with cyclists, and so just another example. So we've got these different categories of hazards, risks that we need to be aware of, and then the next part of the module here talks about, well, what are ways to deal with these risks, and most of them are going to be pretty straightforward, but it helps reiterate what can we do. Well, it starts in the planning design process for in many cases the TMP, which is a transportation management plan. If there are bicyclists and motorcyclists anticipated in the work zone, thinking about that during that phase of the process. Thinking about, keep getting it up. I'm sorry about that. Origin, destination patterns are, something to take consideration. Duration of projects, all those kinds of things, all get thought about early on in the process. So we have a couple of other very specific sets of guidelines, basically 8 here. Ensuring that your vertical pavement edges stay below minimum heights or maximum heights. Right now, I think a lot of states use 2. I know a couple states are use something less than that. Avoiding excessive changes or reductions in design speed below what the normal speed limit is. They're not getting those goes up. That's okay. But anyway, for each of these, you'll see a specific set of examples that cover each of these 8 specific recommendations. What kind of motorcycle-specific signing you might use, what kind of special motorcycle-directed messages on changeable message signs, those kinds of things are all covered in here. Delineating edge transitions around manholes, around the steel plates, putting in filler material, edge material around the steel plates to create ramps so you don't have abrupt edges. You ramp up and down. All these things are covered in this particular module. So with that, well, I think it's time to kind of move on to the next one, and runovers and backovers. I guess Emmett's going to do that one? Okay.
Good morning, and thank you. Yeah, we're going to cover runovers and backovers. A couple points. On each one of the slides, start with a question. And the question on this slide is, what are runovers and backovers? And it defines it. When a worker on foot is struck by a vehicle, and it gives you the vehicle types. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, are runovers and backovers a problem? And again, it answers the question. They are the main cause of road work deaths. And it gives you statistics. Now, at the bottom, you'll actually see a number of things here. And we have what we consider to be our basic awareness course. And we also have what we consider to be our advanced course as it relates to runovers and backovers. And do we have English and Spanish on here? And let me show you a couple other features while we're here. Under the 2, you'll see English. At any point, you can change the text to Spanish. Oh, is it working? Okay, and this is Spanish, and you can change the text also to Portuguese. So you actually, the course is bilingual, where as you go through the course, you can actually change the language. On most of the modules also, even though we don't have sound hooked up, the program will actually read each line for you. For instance, as an instructor, you would read the line in English, you turn to the Spanish mode, and you can let the program read the Spanish for you, so you don't have to try to articulate the Spanish. Okay, next slide. Yes. And we're going to go into the advanced course. Okay, why so many runovers and backovers? Mainly because roads are congested. And it talks about congestion. Okay, next slide. And let me say, I'm going to give you more of the highlights of the program than actually trying to teach the section. Why are workers killed by motorists? And it gives the reason. Motorists enter the workspace. Motorists may be unable to see workers, surprised by work zones and traffic control setups, ignore warnings, distracted or impaired, phones, handheld devices. They may be drowsy. They may be on drugs or alcohol, or they may be speeding. So when you're teaching this course, it gives you a lot of good examples as to what workers should expect from motorists. Why are workers killed by motorists? Workers stray into traffic space. And again, you see the graphics. Workers may be preoccupied, not appreciate the risk, have no convenient access to work areas. So as a contractor, this gives you a lot of points. Where you locate your restrooms, where workers have food and water, where they may take breaks, other local areas, and staging of company vehicles, company materials. So again, as a contractor, these gives you a lot of points in terms of how you might set up your work zone. In some cases, how you set your work zone may actually create hazards instead of eliminating hazards. Next slide. How do we prevent runovers by motorists? Use proper temporary traffic control devices set up in retrieval. Where you see the one on the side, that's actually a demo. And Rod, can you go through that demo for us? It shows us how we should install. And again, you see the installation beginning at the taper and going out into the lane. And it also shows you an example of how you should remove. Okay, let's go back. Next slide. And again, we're not going to go through the details. Everyone has a CD, by the way, hopefully. And you can actually take your CD, and you should practice the program. And if you have a problem, you can call any one of us partners, and we'll actually get on the computer with you and actually help you work through the program where you may be having a difficulty. Okay, how do we prevent runovers and backovers? Workers must always be visible. And again, we'll click on 1. And 1 shows you the different classes of high-vis. And it tells you clearly class 1 should not be used. And it shows you and gives you some information on class 2. And it also shows you and gives you information on class 3. Okay, next slide. How do we prevent runovers and backovers? Workers must always be visible. When should high-vis apparel be replaced? This is an excellent slide. In a lot of cases, we don't do a good job. We give out the equipment. We don't do a good job as to when we should replace this equipment. And this slide gives you a pretty good idea on when equipment should work and when equipment should be replaced. And by the way, how many of you actually take a ride through the work zone at night, look 2,000 or 1,000 feet down the road and actually see what you can see as far as how you can identify workers, whether the worker's equipment is actually working or not working? Okay, next slide. How do we prevent runovers and backovers? Workers should stay in protected areas. And again, let's go through some of the demos. And if you look at the graphics, it actually shows workers that they should be in the protected areas. 2, know the proper path. 3, stay away from open traffic areas. 4, talk with other workers in safe areas. 5, get in and out of vehicles on the non-traffic side. 6, for plan emergency escape routes and revise as needed. And 7, park personal vehicles for safe access to work and other vehicles. Can an internal traffic control plan help? 1, okay. Incorporated in the program, we have a number of booklets that you can actually print and use. Here's an excellent booklet on internal traffic control plans, and you can actually print this booklet, and you can actually teach the program from this booklet, which is an excellent book. And this actually shows you some of the pages in the booklet, and this booklet really does a good job of teaching workers and those on the job how to actually set up and maintain an internal traffic control plan. Okay, let's go to the next demo. Okay, here's a typical, this view gives you a typical internal traffic control plan. And if you look, one of the challenges is to make sure you design your internal traffic control plan where vehicles don't have to back up. If you're really good at designing your internal traffic control plan, you're going to minimize or eliminate backing where possible. And where vehicles do have to back, you're going to make sure that they have some assistance to make sure no one actually gets hurt. Okay, how can we be safe around equipment? And again, I'm going to move forward. You know, that gives the basics, but I'm going to move forward to where we actually have a couple demos.
Just to show this, I want to show the compliance issue. We talked about the built-in compliance. You notice there's an asterisk that appears outside of this. When the asterisk appears, a standard will appear next to it. When you click on the standard, it will open up a line at the top, and then when you run your mouse over that, it gives you what the requirement is and where it comes from. For example, here's another one on obey the markings, and that gives us an OSHA citation, OSHA 1926-550A9, accessible areas within the swing radius of the rotating structure, and so on and so forth. So whenever you see an asterisk that appears next to a word when you're in compliance mode, by clicking on it, it will give you a list of standards applicable to that bullet point, which you then can call up.
Okay, and again, we're not going to cover the information because I'd like to show you a number of the demos. Okay, how do we avoid being crushed? Follow basic rules to avoid being crushed by equipment. And it gives you the basic rules here. Next slide. What are blind spots? Here's a couple excellent demos. Let's go to one. Okay, NIOSH has done an excellent study on identifying blind spots on equipment. Incorporated in the program, based on the vehicles you see there, we actually have a number of blind spot diagrams. What the blind spot diagrams show is on the gray areas, it actually shows what the operator can actually see at ground level. And based on the other, like the yellow highlighted areas, it actually shows what the operator, well, for instance, ground level, you'll see each one of the diagrams labeled. And then next you see what the operator sees for the average barrel. And then next you'll see what the operator sees based on the average 5-foot person. These are excellent talks where you can actually show the crew where they should be in relation to the equipment and what an operator can and cannot see. Also, the yellow shaded areas actually show you what the operator actually sees through his mirror. Okay, very important. Interesting, NIOSH is actually designing some additional toolbox talks and you have the ability to go to the NIOSH website, and the NIOSH website is actually down there. NIOSH has additional blind spots for additional vehicles as well, and you can actually download those or print those. An excellent toolbox talk is to actually take the blind spot diagram for the equipment that your workers are using. Make sure you take the key out the equipment, put the operator in, have the person stand around the equipment in different areas and test the diagram. Let the operator know let the worker know when the operator can or cannot see them, because most workers take for granted that they can be seen, and they really don't understand that equipment has major blind spots where they can actually get hurt. So this is an excellent toolbox talk, and you can use this information to actually help protect the lives of workers. Okay, the next diagram is an excellent tool as well. What you see at the top is you see the operator's cab, and you also see what the operator sees in the front of his machine. You also see the operator's mirrors, and what we do is we move the person mark A around. Look at the top part, and you can actually see the person coming into the mirrors for the operator. Coming out the mirrors, coming in the mirrors again. And this actually helps workers to identify that there are certain areas around the equipment where they just cannot be seen. Now, on the bottom, you can actually move the worker further, again, further back. And again, you can actually go back a distance. And again, the operator cannot see. But excellent tool in terms of having workers understand what an operator can and cannot see as it relates to blind spots on the equipment. Okay, let's go back. Okay, and very important, they have their devices on how to eliminate blind spots. Be aware that the prices are actually coming down on technology, and NIOSH recommends that we actually use devices where the operator can actually better see what's behind their equipment. And ideally, if you go to the NIOSH website, you'll find that NIOSH feels as though the ideal situation is where you actually put a sonar device along with a camera. So in other words, if there's something behind the equipment, the sonar will actually sound in the cab and notify the operator. Then the operator can actually look at the camera. Okay? And this slide talks about backup alarms, but because we don't have sound, if you had sound, you can actually hear the backup alarms beep. Why must we learn about temporary traffic control devices? And what is a spotter? And again, this helps with spotter training and helps to actually make sure you as a contractor has a spotter completely understand their duties as it relates to the operator. Okay, next slide. Okay, what are the best general safety tips? The very important at the bottom of this slide, you'll actually see where we actually have a set of slides that's specific to the operator and drivers. We have a complete set of slides that would be contractor responsibilities, a set of slides where the agency or owner can understand their responsibilities, and a set of slides that would be considered basic awareness. Let's go into contractor responsibilities and look at a couple of those. Okay, how do we prevent runovers and backovers? Next slide. How can worker clothing help? And we've reviewed that. Next slide. By the way, one of your answers was actually here. What other measures can we use? Protective measures. Okay, very good show attenuator applications. Show the use. Watch closely. Excellent video to let workers know that you can't be standing around attenuators because in this case what happened was the worker was distracted by a laptop computer in their car. But some excellent demos. Okay, I'll click through just a couple of those. By the way, there's a number of other pamphlets incorporated. But again, the program is loaded with all kinds of good stuff that you can use. But please, as an instructor, take time, go through the program, figure out what you want to teach. As an example, you can actually use this total program to do toolbox talks for literally 2 years. Okay, at the end, I'll actually come back and show you some of the print materials, but at this point, you've actually gotten a good idea on runovers and backovers and how you can actually use this to protect lives of your workers. The question is, how do you get back to the main screen?
When you go to the end of any module, then you can go backward. And you notice there's a detour button down here. When you click on the detour button, it shows you all the pages that are there. And at that point, you can go back to any page. If you want to switch to a previous choice, when you go here to the last screen in each section, then the choices repeat again. So it's as you finish every section, then the choices resurface again. And again, you can move to any area at any time by using the detour. So for example, if you wanted to do specific screens and skip others and you had a list of those, you could also use this detour to jump around within the program.
Rod, can we go to the menu up top here? The other item you have is going to the menu. You can actually go to the menu and you can go to teach any one of the modules on the program just by, for instance, you finish here, and based on the discussion you had, you'd like to actually go to something else. Well, this menu allows you to go to any section of the program. Also, what we did not show you is before you start the program and you make a deliberate decision as to what you want to teach, you can actually preset the program to actually teach the modules in any specific order that you as an instructor would like to deliver those. So you can actually set the program where the program automatically delivers the next module after you finish this module. So again, a lot of flexibility in the program. He's going to go to, here is the setup where you can actually change your modules. Can you change motorcycles just for the heck of it, which is the bottom module, to one of the middle? So you can actually drag and drop the modules where you can actually reset the modules based on what you might like to teach. And while we're here, why don't we just go to some of the print items? Okay, this is the print screen, and the print screen will show the modules. Let's go on the modules. Okay, let's go to any one of the modules and just show a particular screen. Okay, what you have the ability to do is you have the ability to print that specific screen. You can take that screen out and you can make that screen a toolbox talk. Let's change the language while we're here. The program allows you to change the language where you can print it in English on one side if you so choose and print it on Spanish on the other side, depending on who you're actually instructing. Let's go to the trainee booklets. Okay, in the trainee booklets, it actually shows the different trainee booklets that actually exist in your program, and you can print any one of those trainee booklets and actually teach the program from those trainee booklets. You have an instructor manual. Here's actually one of the trainee booklets. Rod's got it in Spanish, but again, you can put it in English, and you can print this material in any one of the languages and literally teach the course from one of the trainee booklets.